going to go with it as it is. So I'm going to invite you into this opening prayer with me. The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Almighty and ever-living God, source of all wisdom and understanding, be present with us who take counsel here at Thankful for the renewal and mission of your church. Teach us in all things to seek first your honor and glory. Guide us to perceive what is right, and grant us both the courage to pursue it and the grace to accomplish it. So draw our hearts to you, so guide our minds, so fill our imaginations, so control our wills, that we may be wholly yours, utterly dedicated unto you, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. So I have set aside the bulk of this time for just a Q&A. Hopefully you will have all had a chance to look through and read the reports that were sent to you earlier in the week. But before we get to that, Jean said she did have just a few things to help you walk through those reports, the financial reports, if you haven't had a chance to do that yet.
So thank you very much and good morning. I just want to help you understand what you've got in your hot little hands or on your cool little devices. There are, in essence, two reports. One is the report from last year, and it is clearly labeled end of year financial report. So there should be no question about which one it is. It is the one that is on one page. It's basically on page 3 of the handout. The other report, there are two versions of it. It is the future. It's what we expect to have happen here in 2022. So there is a colorized version that is a single sheet with a condensed budget and some pie charts and some bar charts to help you see where our money is coming from and where it is going to. For those of you who thrive on spreadsheets and details, the version B of that report is on pages sort of 5 and 6, and it's the 2-page budget that has the condensed report, but also a detailed breakdown. And it's 2 pages front and back. So 3 reports, last year's report, and then 2 versions of what we plan for spending for 2022. So when the time comes, I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
One more thing I'll say is that Eric Stone, who's our volunteer property manager, could not be here today because he is at a fire hall. There was a slight chance that he was going to be able to bring the fire truck so that he could be here, and I thought Toby was going to really look forward to that, but I guess they couldn't do that. So, but hopefully between me and Randy and a couple of other people, we would be able to answer. We would hopefully be able to answer any questions you might have about the building and renovations. And the summary of what's going on and where we're at in that endeavor were in my rector's report. So if you didn't have a chance to look at that. Are there any questions about any of the reports that you received? Yes.
I think we all.
Yes. Can you do you want to come over here?
I think that we all should stand and applaud Jean Hogarth for her incredible work the last however many thousands of years that she has done to pull this church together.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, and I do think that these reports that Jean has put together are so beautiful and reflect reality and a sense of our awareness of our own financial situation like we have never had in my dozen years at Thankful. So you're deeply appreciative. Any other questions? Yeah. Yeah.
We have a deficit this year from what I see, 16,000, and how is that?
The felicities of the accounting world are that you only spend what you take in. But so technically, on paper, we have a deficit, 16,000. If you recall, if you look at last year's budget, we had a planned deficit, but the deficit sort of didn't materialize to the tune of $34,000. Our cash flow was such that our deficit was only about $6,000. But that's cash flow. We are actually carrying over into this year about $59,000, so that we will not necessarily have to draw down our reserves. That being said, in a spirit of true confession, I will also say that when I was preparing this budget, and everyone on the vestry knows this, I failed to take into account the amount of interest that we have to pay on our back taxes. I calculated the interest through 2021, but I did not carry that forward into 2022. So there's actually about another $3,300 that we have to put into this budget to cover estimated taxes. Now, will it actually cost us $3,300? I don't know. If the IRS contacts us next week and we can settle this, no, it won't take that much. But the IRS has known since June that we're in this pickle, and we're just waiting for it to rise up to the top of their list so that they can deal with us. So the bottom line is, if it takes them another year, we'll have to sort of set aside another $3,300. If it takes them less than that, it won't take as much money. So the answer is, yes, we sort of on paper have a deficit, but in terms of our financial resources, we're in a fairly strong position.
Any other questions about anything financial or Y'all are making this very easy. Either no one read the reports, so no one has any questions, or the reports were so clear that no one has any questions. I guess one is better than the other, but last call for questions before we go forward. Does everyone understand the basis of where we are in the renovation project? There were no questions about that? Fantastic. Well, I just have a few more things to note that either didn't make it into the reports because they came too late, or because I just want to emphasize them a little bit. The first is something that did not make it into the report because we've only dreamed it up last week. And I really want you all to pay attention to this so that you can hear me say this. In conversation with Carly and her role as children's minister, and many of you will know this already, we are growing our children's population by leaps and bounds. The renovation project in the underground of the sanctuary is part of how we want to address those needs, but that's taking a lot longer than we want it to, or that our children's population really needs it to at this point in time. What we'd like to do, and Carly and Eric and I were over in the sanctuary earlier this week and have figured out how to make it happen, and the vestry is aware that it will be part of our discussion, and the vestry will be making a decision about this at its next meeting in the beginning of March. What we'd like to do is take a pew out from the back of the sanctuary and basically move it to the very back of the church, So we won't lose any seating, there won't be any loss of capacity of seating, but what we will do is create a space in between what is now the back two pews. And it'll become what's known as a playground. You get that pun, right? A playground. And it's a, thank you for the laughter. And it'll be a soft sort of landing space where our youngest children, sort of the 2 to 4 year olds, are able to be engaged more quietly during the service with puzzles or book. Oh, Galway was just, yes, did you guys hear that? That was very well timed. With puzzles or books or stuffed animals and that sort of thing, where there won't be the wood floor, right? There will be a carpet down so that you can't hear that stuff, and so that there's some way for those children to be engaged throughout the service without having to trip people up, especially the choir in the back or be in the middle of the aisle during the service. So again, the vestry, this is something we just dreamed up, so the vestry has not yet had a chance to discuss it, and in the end it will be a vestry decision about whether to do that. There will be almost no cost because Eric will be able to do it with some of his friends from the fire hall. So he'll be able to do it himself. And am I missing anything about that, Kelly? What am I missing about that?
We measured it out, and there will be a full 2-code egress on the back of the church for both sides still.
So if you couldn't hear that, there will still be adequate egress, ways to get in and out of that space. So we're not really creating anything different. We're not losing any capacity of seating. We're not losing our aisleways or our ways to get in and out of the building. We're just managing to create. The one change that will happen will be that the baptismal font will have to be moved back a little bit because we'll put a full pew instead of that little like mini pew. We'll put a full pew right in front of the baptismal font, and the mini pew will move to the very back of the church. So you might notice that if you're paying. My family will notice that because they sit in the mini pew, but if you're not aware of that mini pew, you probably won't notice that much of a change, except that there will be a lovely little playground for our young families to be part of. Yes, correct. So the playground will be as you walk into the sanctuary, immediately to your left, that's where the playground will be. So I want to mention this to you now so that we can begin talking about it. And if you have any grave concerns or questions about this, please come talk to me, send me an email, give me a call, or talk to one of your vestry members. I'm about to remind us of who those are because we have had a changeover in vestry. So talk to one of your vestry members so that when we have this discussion as a vestry on March 8th, which is when we're next meeting, if there are any parishioners who have particular concerns, we can raise those during that discussion. Any questions about the playground before I move on? I will mention again that we are, hopefully this relationship with the Regional Outreach Committee, which is a sort of a conglomeration of service providers to the homeless in Chattanooga, will be an ongoing opportunity for us to do collections for outreach to the homeless. So again, every month they will assign us a new item to collect. And so this month we're doing hand warmers. Next month it might be socks. I don't know, whatever it is. I'll just let you know what that is. So just be aware of that, and it's an easy way for us to participate in some local outreach. And hand warmers it is for this month, so you have one more week to gather those and bring them to church if you feel so moved to do so. I also want to mention that I'm trying to gather together what we're calling a prayer and care team. Right before the pandemic, we had sort of broached this idea of having a pastoral care team. And I'm sort of rewording that and reframing that given what we've learned during the pandemic. What I would love is for some folks in our community to be people I can call on. So two things. If you are interested in the prayer and care team, this is what it would ask of you. One is that instead of receiving the prayer list every month, like the rest of the congregation, you would receive it every week. As it gets updated, so that you would commit to praying for people on our prayer list on a weekly basis and receive that updated on a weekly basis. And then the second thing is, there's a lot of times, especially now as we come back from the pandemic, that I notice like, oh gosh, we have not seen Becky and Tim Arnold, like we haven't laid eyes on them. Nobody in our congregation, so far as I know, has laid eyes on them in a really long time. Carly has, that's good. No, you
So I
haven't.
just had a long talk 2 days ago.
Oh, that's good. But you know, if I realize that we haven't seen someone in a long time, and I just don't have the time because I'm half-time, as you all know, to reach out to that person, I just want a list of people I can call and say, hey, Catherine, we haven't seen Tim and Becky Arnold in I don't know how many months. Can you reach out to them by phone, by text, by email, and just check in and see that they're okay and let me know if there's anything that we can do to help. So that's the sort of stuff that I would love to have a group of people sort of be on call to help us make sure as we grow as a congregation and as we sort of enter this new normal post-pandemic, to help us make sure that we are staying in touch with folks who we maybe aren't seeing week in and week out on a Sunday morning. So if that's something, those two things, to be sort of on call, to be in touch with folks, and to commit to praying weekly for our folks on our prayer list, if those two things are things you feel like you might be able to commit to doing, please let me know, and I'll start gathering together this team of folks to do that work. So far, you may not know this, but so far it's been the vestry who has been doing that for me. But the vestry does a lot, so I would love to be able to take that off the vestry's plate and put it on someone else's plate. And in line with that, a great example of us doing that is when Jill Guess recently fell and shattered her kneecap, and she called Carly, which was a great person to call, and Carly was able to inform us of that, and Randy then put together the meal train for her, and Jill has been in touch to say thank you, thank you, thank you to all of you who have come together to support her and to help her through this very difficult and unexpected time. So thank you to all of you on behalf of Jill for coming together for that. Was that what she wanted us to say? Couple more things. We are in some desperate need of Sunday servers still, particularly crucifers and choir members in particular. So if you might feel that you are called to be a crucifer or a choir member, please see me for the crucifer. Talk to Cheryl for the choir member because she probably knows better. And do people have to think that they are good singers to be in the choir? You don't have to think you're a good singer. You can think you're a terrible singer, and that's okay. So yes.
Is there an age threshold to be in a choir? Preferably adults now, because
so adults for now, but if you have a tween or teen who might be interested, let us know and we can maybe talk about that and see what's possible. We also need lectors on a Sunday morning, and more people to be volunteers with our children, or be the cleanup crew on a Sunday morning after coffee hour would also be great. So those are also roles that we invite you to consider as well. You will notice on the first page of your packet, the back of the first page, I think back of the first page. Yeah, there is a calendar of upcoming events. Before I get to that, let me remind you that we did elect. Well done. You managed to do a hybrid vestry election, and we did elect 3 new members to vestry. So Roger Lane and Tom Trevor are starting their 3-year terms. Roger's right here, and Tom, where's Tom? Tom was here. Tom's not here now, but he was here. And then Esme Emick, who's over there, is filling in for the term that had to be vacated by Emily O'Donnell because she became city attorney and she just could not take on vestry anymore. So Esme is finishing Emily's term. So Esme has 2 years left on the vestry starting now. So thank you to all 3 of you for stepping into those roles. And a big thanks, oh yes, thank you. And big thanks to Robert Thatcher and Linda Puckett, who are rolling off of vestry and are no longer on the vestry and completed their terms. And Don Siegel was the last person to complete, was the last vestry person who would have completed a term, but obviously died before we got a chance to do that. So may he rest in peace, and we thank him in absentia as well. There's one more thing I was going to say about vestry, and I forget what that is. And also big thanks to Carly Lane and John Grant, who were serving as our wardens in 2021, and to Carly and Randy, who are our wardens for 2022. So just please keep all of that in mind. Moving back to the back page of that initial report with the agenda items on it. If you look on the back, you see a calendar of upcoming events. And I just want to direct your attention to that. Obviously, as I mentioned this morning, our Ash Wednesday service is at 6 p.m. And then there are a number of Lenten offerings for Christian formation. Mother Rachel, who's actually on the computer right now, you all can't see her, but I can. She is leading a Zoom lectionary Bible study. So for those of you who have been part of our, she's doing a little dance, y'all can't see that today. For those of y'all who were part of our coffee hours, Zoom coffee hours during the pandemic, something very similar to that, where we just discussed the previous Sunday's readings and the sermon reflection and all that sort of stuff. So those will be Mondays in Lent at 7 p.m. Eastern time, 7 p.m. Eastern time. There is a Zoom link. You can get it by just emailing me or emailing the church office, and we'd be happy to send that Zoom link to you. The Thorne Sparkman School of Religion is on again this year. That takes place at St. Paul's, but is an offering of Christian formation that's offered by a consortium of Episcopal parishes in Chattanooga, including Thankful. And you can find out more information about that and register at the link that is on this sheet of paper. And then we'll be here at Thankful. I'll be providing you all with a booklet that comes from the SALT project called Van Gogh and the Beauty of Lent. And it's just a little opportunity for guided meditation throughout the Lenten season, and every family will receive one of those. We'll have them for you to pick up next Sunday, but if you aren't here next Sunday or you just forget to get one, I'm going to try and keep track of who's here on Sunday, and I will mail those booklets to anyone who doesn't show up. For our children, for our young families, for our families with young children, we also have a special thing for the kiddos that they will get, that they will all receive in the mail, because children love to receive mail. And then Holy Week is April 10th through 17th. So hopefully you have that on your calendar, and we will be able to have a full Holy Week celebration in person, God willing, this year. Are there any final questions before we move on? Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn? It's the only thing we need to vote on this annual parish meeting, because we've already voted on vestry. So the only thing we need to vote on is whether or not you all are ready to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Roger. Is there a second for that? Thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you all very much, and we'll see you next Sunday.